No, please.
Okay, I am here with Jamie Alvey. She is the writer and star of Bystanders, which is now out on demand and on digital. And I had a total blast with this movie. This was one of those rare horror movies that will kind of like say, where did this come from? Who is the brains behind this? And obviously here she is. So I gotta say, great job on this movie.
Thank you. That's most people's reaction to it because when people were reading it, like even when I did a chemistry read with Garrett, actually, who plays Gray, he goes, I've not read all this and I have no idea where any of this is going, to be honest. And so yeah, like everybody, even in the process, they were like, how did you even think this up? And I'm like, well, I joke that it's the mixture of autism and childhood trauma and then just innate weird drive to create that has, come to be bystanders basically at this point. And yeah, it's I won't lie, it is weird because that's what I told when I was pitching it. I was like, I have a hard time comping this one because like the only thing that like truly out there that was even somewhat of a comp is probably one of the biggest influences, and that's Wes Craven's Last House on the Left. And that's what my mom has always called it. So it's kind of my weird personal take on Last House on the Left with a lot more serial murder in it instead of just, revenge. Just
Yeah. Well, what I found interesting was I found out that you've been into horror since your childhood.
yes.
So, you want to talk a little bit about that? Where did this all begin?
Absolutely. I was one of those kids that I loved just everything that was spooky and creepy. I loved scary stories to tell in the dark, which is where most of us started with that and Goosebumps.
Mhm.
I am traumatized to this day by ventriloquist dummies. I was about 13 when Dead Silence came out, so that solidified that for me. So like I've just kind of been here in this space for a long time from the time I was a little bitty. And because my mom loves horror movies and my father just loves film in general. So I just also kind of grew up around it. And I had my own interest in it outside of them. Of course, they contributed to it, but like they were very supportive and like, going out and me like exploring whatever makes me happy, whatever interests me. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I came to be as who I am because they are, obviously two of my greatest
Yeah,
influences for better and for worse. It depends on who you're asking, probably.
yeah.
But
I grew up. Yeah, I grew up all around films too. My parents were both film fans, and I think my brother tried to traumatize me at 6 when he had me watch Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's
oh my
Revenge.
God.
But I think what happened was I think he was surprised when I actually thought when Freddy pops out of Jesse's body, I thought it was the coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. So and here I
That's
am 6 years
usually
old,
how
like
that's usually
so
how
cool.
it is because I just oh my God, I love practical effects. I love blood, fake blood. Don't show me the real thing because then I'm just like, no, can't do the real blood. But if I know it's fake, I'm fine. Um, so it's yeah, I
Yeah,
just
I'm the same way. Like even on screen, if I watch like fingernails getting ripped off, like it's still whether it's real or even in the screen, I freak out at
oh,
that. Like
fingernail stuff is awful. Like that is awful. Fingernails and eyeballs and stuff still have the still get me. Like there's some stuff that I'm like, you know what? Sometimes you still just
hmm
you
you
can
gotta cringe.
shock me, you can still get me to cringe. Like hand trauma is something that I find personally horrifying, and hamstringing, which both made it into bystanders, as everybody knows, because obviously I watched Pet Cemetery at way too young at some point, and the hamstringing in that like stayed with me. So I have had a pathological fear, I guess, of hamstringing, and I was like, okay, What would I do to somebody if I were trying to like literally torture them? And I was like, that's the gross. Okay, we'll go from there. So, you
Yeah, and
know,
of course, being a guy, the castration stuff used to freak me out. But then one movie that just came out a couple of years ago finally destroyed that fear because it made me laugh so hard. It was called "That's a Wrap." I don't know if you've heard of it,
oh,
but it's basically it's and so there's a scene where this guy gets castrated by the killer. But what
hmm.
killed me was the guy looked at it and he throws his thing at the killer before getting like ultimately killed. And when I saw
Oh
that,
my
I was literally
God.
laughing so hard. I'm like, I just got over my fear of watching anything happening in that because that was just like
I
that
love
just made it.
I love that. Like originally, it what we didn't have a castration. I actually just stabbed him in the dick in the original. But our production designer, Ben Miller, God love him, he was like, "What if we castrate?" And of course, I started chanting because I knew we were getting some good practical because I get because here's the thing, I get way too excited about things to the point that it probably freaks out other people because I'm like, this is my passion. I'm like, yes, fake blood, yes, fake everything. Like it's yeah, I was basically like, okay, now I have to go like look these people in the eye and they're probably like, this woman is demented. And I'm like, no, no, I'm just excited for how we're gonna do it. Like it's weird, but like most people take it in stride when you're making something like that. John Connors, who plays Jacob, who is castrated in the film, is he's an angel. I think he's one of the best people I've ever met. He's a talented filmmaker in his own right. Shout out John Connors. He's made some short films, and I've had the honor of watching them. And he's very just stupidly talented. Like he's one of those people that you look at and you're like, oh my God, like you are cute as a button for one, and you're talented too. Like you are just God's favorite, aren't you, John? I'm like, everybody loves John, obviously. And he's just awesome person. His whole family, when the movie premiered, actually came. And what was the funniest thing was I was like, oh my God, I don't know how they're gonna react to this. They were cheering when he was being castrated. So it like, yeah, cheering like actively and laughing. And I was like, oh, okay, thank God that landed. They had a great time with it, and just John is just overall a great person, and I can't wait to see where he goes post evil frat boy who is castrated, actually. Like they've all got some big careers ahead of them, and like it was really cool to get to work with a lot of people who have like the similar drive and passion, at least for acting, even if horror is not their kind of thing there. So I could just ramble for days and days about everybody. And I joke that Bystanders is how I met my husband. Because one of the frat boys actually went on to play my dead husband in my short that just went out on the festival circuit in like the past couple weeks. And yeah, but they're great. Everybody asks about that and is like, "Oh yeah, castration. How are them boys?" Those are the two big ones always, and they're great. They are. Absolutely.
What were what were your favorite horror films growing up? If you could do a top five, like what would you
Well,
say would be the top five childhood horror movies for you?
oh God, this one is gonna get weird because I was starting to delve into some stuff that was kind of odd already. Okay. By the time I was a teenager, I loved Let the Right One In. And yes, the Swedish vampire horror film. That's completely normal for somebody from the middle of nowhere, Kentucky. I realize that's not the yeah, totally normal. Like absolutely. Everybody from rural Kentucky is definitely taking in Let the Right One In. But Let the Right One In, Ginger Snap. um, Jennifer's Body at that point. I really loved Nightmare on Elm Street because that was a big one for me too that I just kept watching over and over with my mom. Um, and I was I was watching a lot of just taking in a lot of stuff at that point.
Yeah.
Now if you if you because it's like, oh God, what was every time anybody asks me to
I grew
list.
yeah, I grew up with the 80s home video market. So you can just imagine where I'm from. So I grew up with the weird B movie ones that you probably would never even heard of.
Oh yeah, I
Or
see.
like those, but then at 12 years old, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, changed my whole thing. I became like an instant horror fan, like really delved into horror right after seeing that movie because that for me was like one of the most messed up movies like ever. And still to this day, it's my all time favorite horror film because I think it more of not really a slasher film, even though it was the prototype for the slasher film, but it was more of a psychological horror film if you really think about it. Just
Yeah, because they don't really show a lot of blood in that. And I think that it's funny. Everybody's like, oh, it's so bloody, it's so graphic. And I'm like, is it? Watch it again.
no,
Because my mom loves Texas Chainsaw, and I think it's funny because I was so excited that people actually kind of can because obviously Bystanders is very influenced by 70s horror, the writing of it. And people have compared it to Texas Chainsaw because they were like, "Oh my God, just people being that gleeful and going through and killing a bunch of people." And I was like, "Yes, you get me. You get where I come from there." And like, of course, I had to call my parents and I was like, "I've got it. I've got the comp that I need. No one can tell me anything now."
yeah.
No one,
Even I
yeah,
said,
no.
even I said, like watching you and Garrett, I'm like, I'm watching American Housewife and Uncle Rico being serial killers. When I wrote that in my review, I was like, this is it perfect because I kept watching clips from American Housewife and seeing how Katie Mixon acts. It's the way you acted, except you amped up the violence, but the way you come across it, it was just like her. And then Garrett Murphy, he looks like Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite. So
You
it's
know,
like,
one of my friends said something very similar, and we sent that to her, and she was like, vindication, vindication. Um, but God, yeah, uh, it's that took me out because my father loves Katie Mixon as an actress. She's very underrated, and I was like, oh my God, this is gonna kill him. So of course, I just keep sending my dad all the stuff that people are saying, and like I sent that to him definitely, and I was you were like, if Katie Otto was a psychopath, and I'm like, are you sure she's not? Because I could easily see her turning serial
she kind of
killer.
was, but you were like the definition of psychopath with that role because
She's
you just come.
Claire's she's kind of a hard like she's one of those characters that like I come at from a very human angle. Like she's somebody that's been kind of very stifled in her life. And Gray's very similar in that. And this is just kind of, you kind of see them kind of unfettered, unmasked, unhinged a little bit there. And like, I always joke that for them, the whole concept of like the torture and like going at the boys is like theater. And that really kind of is how it was approached too, because Garrett and I both have a theater background. I've been doing it from the time I was 9, and he got into it and like the came to it in like the past few years, though he had also done acting as a child. But came back to it as an adult, and thank God, because I don't think that film would have been what it is without him and me up there. So like he him and I just it works. It does. And like we bring, I think, a lot of energy to that movie together. And it was really fun to just just be in that space and play off of somebody that you absolutely like just kind of connected with artistically. Like a lot of times it felt like very wordless, very natural. Like we would go through the scenes and like we would fall into this groove and then you get the end product, which is Katie Mixon and Uncle Rico. And it was it was really fun. And I like I have nothing but good things to say about that experience overall. And I joke that I'm gonna write us a sequel, but who knows these
It could
days.
happen. And of course, not only was this your feature film writing debut, it was also the directorial debut of Mary Beth McAndrews, who I thought did an excellent job with the execution. So shout out to her.
Yes, absolutely.
How did that come about with
Uh,
her?
Mary Beth actually read the script. I want to say, I know it was at least 2019 or 2020. It was somewhere in the hellscape of almost COVID and like me moving out on my own when I was really starting to get serious about trying to push this out there. So we became friends and like connected and like she was really interested in it and she was like, "Can I read this?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then like years later she was like, "Are you ready to pitch this? Do you want to pitch this?" And like she has really championed it and that's another connection that I'm so thankful for because I 100% like was like, "Okay, like let's do it. Let's see what happens. Let's go with this," because she really kind of it felt like she got what I was trying to get at, what the vision was for it. And like I didn't really have to sit back and worry, oh, this is going to be completely butchered or some like guy's going to come in and co-opt something and be just completely weird about it because I'm very protective of my work and I think that she honored that and um, like I would, I mean, I would do it again, honestly. And it's been really rewarding because for a moment in time, I just was able to thrive in a way creatively that I had never been able to.
Well, I mean, you did such a great job in this film, and like the fact that you got the murderous frat boys first meeting their match. Where did the idea about the murderous frat boys hunting these women for sport? Where did that come from?
Well, that is actually based in like a lots of real life actual. I think it's funny that all the I get the complaint that this is not realistic. This is not realistic. There's not like they seem too much like caricatures. And I'm like, do you know the statistics coming out of college campuses, specifically surrounding frats and sexual assault and violence against women? Um, there's a prevalent issue there, and that's exactly where this is based in. And I have worked so hard to try to keep that part, even though it is exploitation inspired. There are some times it's kind of overkill at times, but it does have a very realistic core there. And I was mainly just honestly pissed off about the Brock Turner case because it was completely just kind
Mhm.
of obfuscating the point, like blaming the victim. And I just kind of had the idea of like, okay, a lot of like entitled rich frat boys who have projected this persona out into the world that they are just they're good guys, they have it all together, having this like really dark side. And because that's kind of how like here in America, like we have that kind of Americana, that all American golden boy kind of comes from money, grew up in the suburbs, went to a good college, got in a frat. So they're kind of those guys, they're kind of indicative of that, except the reality of it instead of just the idealized image. So I kind of went into it from there. I went into it from a realistic perspective and I was like, okay, the first scene that I ever had in mind when was actually Claire and Gray in the car. Um, and they were driving and she was telling him that she was pregnant and everything is just tense there. And then Abby runs out, who was at one point Chloe.
Huh.
And that's just kind of how it came to be. And I knew that like it wasn't just the pregnancy that Claire and Gray that was being like hidden there. Like that was just normal life stuff. And it's kind of a red herring in that way because like you're not expecting a pregnant serial killer. Nobody is. But like is she like it's kind of like you have these young people that are on the cusp of like their own like like kind of figuring things out. And then you have like there's a lot of parallelism and that was the first really clear idea that I had and yeah. It went from
That's awesome. Well, altogether, this was a fantastic movie. I'm hoping more people will get to see it. And I, for one, would be all in for a sequel if it ever gets done. Definitely, for sure. I would love to see. I'd love to see where Claire and Gray go next. And you mentioned your short film just hit the film festival circuit. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? What's
that is called Your Husband Was a Good Man, and it is pretty again like post Bystanders, I was trying to figure out myself creatively because I was like, I had done this with Mary Beth and it went well. And as I said, I'm really protective over myself. So I kind of let that go for a little bit and compartmentalized, but I was still kind of searching for what to do next. And again, because again, I'm very protective over everything. People are like, Jamie, you've got to let go control just a little bit. And I'm like, I know, but most of it is just, the normal trust issues from like my past and everything because people laugh and they're like, I can tell something awful's happened to you by the stuff you write. And I'm like, yeah, yeah. A lot of it is based either in emotional autobiographical content or some of it is plucked from my life. Like part of Gray's backstory in Bystanders is like literally mine. The bullying aspect, not the abusive father and killing somebody, which is its whole other thing. And like I was just trying to figure myself out after that, and I was like going through a lot of grief and a lot of stress and just I didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't know how to like function or survive. And I lost like 10 pounds in a week. And it was, it was a really weird time in my life. And honestly, Your Husband Was a Good Man was what I wrote during that time to see if I had anything left in me. And honestly, that kind of opened up a gateway to a lot of like connections and creativity. And it kind of gave me uh kind of showed me that I could do like yes, I obviously I'm bystanders, Mary Beth's bystanders, Garrett's bystanders, we're all a part of that. Um but I could like we could do more than that outside of that. Like that I wanted to prove that to myself. And I know that probably everybody else feels the same way. And I did it and what was funny was I cast Eaton Gabbard as my dead husband in that. And he plays Brad in Bystanders, and it is a very different dynamic. Um, so if you really want to see some, if you watched Bystanders and you watch Your Husband Was a Good Man, it's like complete and total whiplash. It's my little proof of concept. It's about a woman that brings back her husband after he died. He was a school teacher that dies in a school shooting. Of course, I didn't want to be exploitative about that, but I draw a lot from what's going on around me uh, in the world and what's going on within me as a just person. And like, again, going through a lot of grief, and I see a lot of collective grief around me. And it just became this. And I was like, I really want to explore this. I really want to see where this goes. And I pursued it. And I have some wonderful students that wanted to learn screenwriting from me. And I had already started like pushing it in contests just to see what would happen. Because again, I was like, what am I gonna do? Like basically I was just trying to find like I know everybody else, like Mary Beth's bystander's journey kind of was just starting there too because she was in post.
Hmm.
And like it it's just kind of funny to see how everything has just kind of converged and diverged and come together again in ways. Um, but like I'm really proud of what everything brought together. Honestly, I don't even know if I'm making any sense because like I'm just grateful it exists, all of it, and I'm grateful to everybody. And yeah, Your Husband Was a Good Man is really just it's intense. It's intense in a different way. It's intense in a Mike Flanagan way. Um, so it follows a young wife who is desperate to have her husband back. They have a small child and she resurrects him, and he starts craving raw meat and it goes way downhill. It's a proof of concept. I would love to make a feature for everybody that's out there. So like I think that that kind of ushered in a whole new era for me because back to my students, they wanted to learn screenwriting from me, and I had written that and I had pushed it out there in contests, and they were like, "We should shoot this as part of this uh, class, part of this practice. We should do this. We want to do this." And I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna pull this together, but like really like at my lowest, like I was having trouble getting out of bed in the morning at that point. They kicked my ass and they got me into a space where I could create and I could do again. And honestly, like not to be really overly sentimental, that meant everything to me post like because like yeah, bystanders is again, it's always going to stay with us. It's always going to be a part of every one of us that made it. But like, I I felt like I was thrown into that finding that next phase of my life part after it. And
Yes.
like, I was editing scripts that I had been working on for a while. I was finding new ideas, and it just kind of ushered in like a lot of creativity. Even doing Your Husband Was a Good Man and like doing post, like I found new passions that I didn't even know that I had for filmmaking. Um, so I sound designed Your Husband Was a Good Man also. Like I do like 15 things on that, it feels like. It was a small crew, small cast, but like it just it symbolizes just that there is kind of hope out there, even though it is a bleak short. And like I know everybody posts, I feel I feel like everybody is going to be like, yeah, post bystander. She's going to make something real fun now. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to everybody because it's not fun. It's not fun. It's going to make you sit with some really uncomfortable feelings. I mean, bystanders does that too, but it explores it in a way that is very, I think, empowering and very much punching up in the sense of humor at those that are in power. But this one is just, this is my Debbie Downer piece. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to let it happen. I'm going to test the waters and see where that goes creatively. And apparently, I'm just going to ramble about it and bystanders and that post, just that weird space that I sat in as a creative because I know everybody was off doing their own thing at that point. And like, I just was like, I felt like the world had just kind of turned and left me. And I couldn't get past it for a while. And I know it was totally, just the whole figuring out myself and what to do as a creative. And like, it was affirming. And I got to work through some stuff that I had been like putting off because I joke that if I could schedule my grief and my mental breakdowns, I would. And like my grandma had died like 2 years prior, so I was excising a lot of grief there as well. So just it was kind of a perfect storm, and that is the full story of how your husband was a good man came to be and what that looks like. And I'm just kind of really weirdly excited to see where this one goes and see where that takes me creatively because I have just been kind of following my bliss and going down a lot of weird little rabbit holes in my brain. And of course that's interesting in and of itself because um honestly, it's a miracle that your husband was a good man even exists because I was doing like 17 different things at once. I was teaching 4 classes, running that internship practicum where they learned screenwriting and they shot that short. I started my production company. I was in the process for finally being cognitive tested for autism and
Mhm.
ADHD. And of course, if you can't tell the way my brain popcorns around, yeah,
I'm
that.
with you. I'm with you there because I got something to tell you. I'm also on the spectrum, believe it or not.
Oh, yes, yes.
So,
My people. I get so excited when people are like, yeah, I'm on the spectrum. Yeah. I was like, yes.
yeah, my mind will wander off too. Like I'll think once, like I think of story ideas in my head that will just go in different directions. Like where,
Oh
which one?
yeah, like I've gotten pretty good at keeping myself on topic and everything. Like, oh, I love it. So thank you for sharing that with me. I appreciate it. But yeah, I was doing like 15 different things at once. I'm also getting an MFA too, another master's, and everybody's like, "What's wrong with you?" I was like, "I like to be busy. I like doing things." Um,
Yeah,
I'm one of those people that I'm like, I like having a project or having 17 projects at the same time. So right now, excuse me. Right now, I'm just kind of trying to figure out what like what do I even do next? Like I've been writing stuff. I've been like getting ready to finish up that MFA. Like everything's like feels like coming full circle and like we're in a really exciting like scary time right now as a creative and like I try to talk about this as honestly as I possibly can because I know that it is scary and like I feel like
mhm.
this is stuff that we don't really talk about because like I get it. Everybody likes the cool parts of being a creative. Everybody likes the glamorous parts
Mhm.
of being a creative.
They don't
And
realize it's actually hard work. You believe I've talked to a lot of indie filmmakers for the
mhm.
last 10 years to know that it's not all glitz and glamour. There's going to be challenges and obstacles, and as long as you're happy with what you made, that's all that matters. That's how I
Ex
see it.
exactly, and, like, you just it's interesting, and honestly, I'm fascinated by the human experience, and I'm fascinated by, navigating this world, um, in the ways that we all have to. Obviously, I'm interested in people. It's almost like I'm a writer or something, uh, but I I just, it's been kind of it's been difficult in a way, but, like, also very exciting and very rewarding to see where it goes and how it goes and, like, connecting with people and finding how you work with others and, like, the groove and just making your own little path out there, and, like, I've just again, I don't think I'm never not gonna be all over the place, but I think that, like, it feels like something like time is just moving way too fast or way too slow, but like stuff is like finally falling into place in a way that I've kind of always wanted and like in a way that I've never expected at the same time. So it's kind of a weird and exciting period because I'm like it's scary. I won't lie that it's not scary. I mean, I've kind of been like I would love to talk to everybody else about this, but I'm like I know not everybody wants Jamie in their inbox going like, "Hey, how you doing? You want to talk about something heavy now?" Because people are like, "Jamie, you got to chill for a little bit." You can't be mining the human experience 24/7. So, yeah, I've been like, I wonder how everybody else is like coping with like, what do I do next? Where do I find this thing? Who am I? How do I feel connected to myself and to others? But like I eventually feel like I'm gonna write something that's inspired a lot by just this and this feeling, but I don't know where that's quite gonna go yet, but I have ideas and your husband was a good man. I've been pushing my next feature screenplay, Housewife. I've been working on like 17 different other things. Like it's really cool. And I hope that like I really hope like I have been just so disconnected. I feel like from everybody just trying to like make it through the semester teaching. And I really hope everybody is okay and like because like I try to check in on everybody still and but yeah, I'm gonna have to just I hope everything just yeah. I'm just
Yeah, yeah. I hear. But
it's
I will say
cool.
this though: the fact that you came doing a horror comedy to something that's more intense, I think that's really cool because in a way that shows like you have a sense of versatility among things. Because there are filmmakers out there. There's some who are always going to have a niche market. They're always going to have stick to one type of genre because that's their thing. Then there's others who are going to do different genres to work things out. One of my favorites is a Japanese director, Takashi Miike. He's done
Mhm.
horror, he's done action, he's done comedy, he's even done kids films, over the course of like 100 and something films.
Oh,
But he,
I would love to make a kids film. I don't know what I don't even know what I would do. I mean, there would probably be a puppet involved because I love the Muppets as it is. But yeah, like I don't feel the need to limit myself and like trying to figure out like what I wanted to do, and I was like, no, I want to do everything. Was kind of revolutionary for me because I was like, but I was like, I mainly want to stick in the horror sphere,
Mhm.
but I kind of was like, there's so many different types of horror, and
Yeah,
I don't need to limit myself. And with bystanders, I know that like it is so niche. Like I was like I know that this is absolutely for like a market of 5 people, and those are the 5 people that Mary Beth is one of them. Like obviously that's her baby too now because like she was like I love this and kind of took it under her wing, and like obviously it's for us, but like putting that out there, it's scary, but like it's kind of weird to see where I go genre wise, because like some of the stuff that I've kind of bounced around. I've kind of bounced around like my brain, my uncaffeinated little brain right now. Um, but it's been interesting because I wrote another proof of concept that is a rom-com horror comedy that just absolutely has like some very disgusting vampire related body horror in it. That I just I was like, okay, this is a mashup. And then I recently finished writing a short that was deeply inspired by the abstract quality of Eraserhead and Ingmar Bergman.
Wow. See, that just
Yeah,
shows up. That just shows how versatile you're willing to go.
yeah, like I was like, you know what, I'll try it all. I think that there's value in it. And I mean, I think that everybody else, like especially if you don't feel like you know where you're gonna go next, to just kind of try, just kind of go out there and do.
Well, definitely keep rolling with it. That's all I gotta tell you because I think you got a career ahead of yourself with in terms of filmmaking. You definitely are going to get there. You know, it doesn't regardless of whatever you tackle. I think you're going to be a name to look out for down the road. If Bystanders and your husband's a good man at anything to go by, I think you're going to be a name to look out for down that road, hands down.
You that means a lot to me because I was like, I would like to have career longevity. I would like to like create my own little community, my own little repertoire of actors and people that I can call on. I really envy whatever mojo Mike Flanagan has with that because he's just got this like lovely little system, but he is always like bringing in new and different people into the fold with his mainstays, and I was like, I love that. That's just such a like it's very community theater and repertory theater stuff that I kind of grew up around as a I was my own stage mom basically. Um and you know, I love that, and I would eventually like to create that for myself. I would love to like call back on people, and obviously I'm already doing that. I've joked that Deaton is my Henry Thomas, to my Mike Flanagan. I was like, I'm just bringing you in, and you're just a workhorse, and everybody's gonna recognize you someday. They're gonna be like, oh no, that's Deaton Gabbard, because I'm gonna tell you, Deaton does not quit. Like he is he's impressive. Like his just energy, um, and his devotion to it all. Like that cast for Bystanders and the cast for your husband was a good man. I adore each and every one of them, and I think that they are all uniquely precious individuals. And I know that like I wax poetic about it a lot, but it's like it's rare that you meet people that will connect with you on an artistic level, and it's something that's very special, and it's something that I hold very dear to me. And hopefully, like I actually wrote a short that I had Brandy in mind for the lead, because I was like, I don't know if I was like, I kind of want to just direct this if I ever make it. Um, so you know, like I think that I'm working towards what I have in mind for myself, if that makes any sense. And
Yeah.
like, you know, I'm kind of open to whatever comes next. And hopefully we'll have some more festival news for your husband was a good man, because we've only had like the one actual showing so far. And I hope that everybody finally gets to see this. And I hope that we get to make a future for you, because uh, so much of it grew. from Bystanders in a weird, beautiful way. Our key grip on Bystanders, Bino Bannon, is the cinematographer for Your Husband Was a Good Man. It was one of his first big EP roles, and he, yeah, I think that he was somebody we definitely are gonna have to. I think he's gonna make a mark on cinema in a very indelible and interesting way because he did something with Your Husband Was a Good Man, and that was take like the stick figures and the just the atmosphere out of my brain and like actually make it a reality in a way that was better than I ever could have imagined. And like he is just a beautiful person, just absolutely inside and out. Like his mind is just beautiful and like he's absolutely wonderful. And like being able to share that space with him again creatively, it was very special. And I honestly I can't wait for him to look at my stick drawings and be like, oh my God, Jamie. Which I know he would never say. Here's the thing, he would never say anything bad, but I know because I look at them myself. My storyboards are awful little stick people. They're somewhat better than Ryan Johnson's storyboards. I'll say that. But they are these awful little stick people, and I know he's sitting there thinking, "Oh my God, Jamie, not the little, not the sad stick people." Um, but obviously, it's been a it's been a ride, and I'm excited to see where we all take it, and I'm excited to see what I do next because like I have some stuff lined up. I don't know where any of it's gonna go, but it's all just it's very uncertain. And of course, my my brain is just like, oh, this feels unsafe. So I'm trying to like barter with it and trying to figure out how to circumvent that right now because I'm like, oh no, of course. It's just it's odd. It's odd, but not a bad odd. So I am optimistic at the end of the day about it all.
That's awesome. Everyone, check out Bystanders right now. Rent it, buy it, do what you gotta do because that is a fun movie. I cannot wait to check out Your Husband Was a Good Man whenever that hits. All that, Jamie.
Oh,
Is there,
I can send you the link. I can send you a screener.
I would like that. But Jamie, I meant what I said. You're definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with. I think because you did such a great job on these projects, and I can't wait to see what comes next for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I really do. I really thank you so much for your time. This has been great. And I'm sorry if I've been rambly, but like
It's all good. It's all good. I've
I'm
had
in
the way I like doing interviews. It's not like these journalists who go like, what's this? This is this. No, I like it as if I'm at a pub talking to someone, just like talking away, and
yep.
just sharing our love of movies and talk about your projects and all that. That's and it's better that way. It's like it makes it more
Hey, if
flowing.
anybody like everybody bitches about the monologues and bystanders, and I'm like, I monologue at least once a day, and like there you have it. That's how I do constantly. And yeah, but here's the thing, if you give me 10 minutes, I'm always going to be like, yes, I love this person. They're great. Go hire them, go find them. But yeah, hopefully if you take anything away from my uh, weird word vomit is like go find Mary Beth, go find Bino, go find everybody else and just give them your time of day. I've taken enough of it. So like stop listening to me. Go listen to everybody else that I've worked with for a few seconds. So yeah, it's yeah, it's just basically I'm just full of like a lot of nervous excitement and deep, deep gratitude that I keep stored up, and then it just becomes like interview word vomit at this point, and I keep doing it, and I don't think I'm ever gonna stop because, like, I think we need a little more of that in this world.
I totally agree. Well, everyone, again, check out Bystanders, and when your husband is a good man is ready, I definitely will definitely check that out. And Jamie, thank you so much again for taking the time to
Thank
talk about all this.
you. It's my pleasure. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Well, as always, you stay awesome.